Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Matija, the co-founder and CEO at Taia. Hello.
Hi, Christian. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you. Please tell us, what is Taia?
So at Taia, we do translation services for tech companies. We do that by automating a large part of the process using AI and other automation tools. But we know that AI is not always perfect, so we pair it up with human translators on top of that as well. So what you get is a platform that helps you translate any content that you have, be it marketing content, legal content, your website copy, and you can select by yourself whether you want to have it translated just by machine translation only or whatever level of human involvement you would like to have on top of that.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's very interesting. And did you start with AI from day one?
Yeah, actually, AI has been around for a very long time in the localization industry. So ever since I think it was 2015 or something like that was when the first NMT was published, so neural machine translation. And we're actually one of the first industries that adopted basically neural networks for production use, which disrupted the market quite a lot. I mean, you're all familiar with Google Translate, but
Yes.
nowadays things have evolved quite a lot in this industry as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. What are the best features of Taia?
Well, so one of the best features is that it's very easy to use. Our clients like it that anyone in their company can manage their translation projects. So you don't need a dedicated translation or localization department or, a single person who is a bottleneck of ordering translations and sending emails back and forth to translation agencies or even freelancers. But basically anybody in the company who has an account and the account is free can just drag and drop their files, create a new project and have it processed any way they like. So by machine translation only, which is very cheap and very fast, or by having multiple human layers on top of that.
I understand. And how accurate is AI nowadays in translation?
Well, it really depends on the content you have. So if you have, let's say your platform UI might be very well off, because it's out of context, just short sentences. It doesn't really understand what's going on. But if we're talking about, let's say, marketing content for your, let's say, blog posts or landing pages for product descriptions, stuff like that, in these cases, AI can be very, very good because it has more context. It's better at understanding what's going on around the text that we're looking at. So it finds much better phrases and words to place in there.
I understand. And how do you structure the pricing if you combine AI and human?
Right. Yeah. So we do have a peculiar pricing model, to say the least. So on the one hand, we have a subscription model where you can purchase a subscription and use our platform to translate by yourself. So let's say you have an in-house team who still wants to do their own translations, or they at least want to be the persons who verify what the AI does, and we allow them to use our easy-to-use translation tool. This would be like a subscription model. But then for any of the professional translation services, which is done by our professional team of translators and project managers, in that case, you would be paying per word. So similarly to what a traditional translation agency would charge you, except that here the process is automated. So you would automatically get the price for your project and also the delivery time. So you don't have to, send quotes back and forth in PDFs like you did in 1995, right?
I understand. And did you start with the subscription model from day one, or is just a pivot after the...
So yeah, we first started out actually as a translation agency quite a while ago, and then we started building the platform on top of that. So we initially only went with the pay-per-use business model because that's what the market is most used to.
Yes.
But as we started adding more features to the platform, and now that the platform is also providing value on its own, we are also able to charge a subscription as well. So it gives us the best of both worlds, so everyone's happy.
Exactly. And I'd love to hear a success story, if you can share with us. A happy customer story.
A happy customer story. Oh, there's a lot of those. Yeah, where do we start?
Maybe something that's different or interesting.
Yeah, cool. So one of our happy customers is the Mozilla Foundation from New York, for example.
Okay.
They use our platform to translate their marketing content for different events that they do and blog posts. And they actually enjoy the fact that it's very easy to process. You just drag and drop your files, select the languages, decide what kind of quality you want to go with, and then you're happy. And we just wait for the project to be completed, and once it's done, you download it. But we do have customers in e-commerce, for example, as well. Your Central European listeners might recognize Best Secret, for example, is one of the more prominent German e-commerce companies. In their case, they have multiple people using the platform. Again, different types of services. Sometimes it's just machine translation when they have a lot of different projects that need to be done. But sometimes we do a full TEP service, meaning the translation with editing and proofreading on top. So basically 3 humans in the loop.
Okay. I'm curious to know how competitive is your space and how you differentiate.
Yeah, the space is getting quite crowded. I mean, obviously, it's a niche that needs to be solved, and a lot of people are finding different ways. So we've positioned ourselves somewhere in the mid-market. There's a lot of players in the enterprise level, but we find it very difficult to work with enterprise type of clients. So it takes a lot of time to go through the RFP process, go through the onboarding. They usually don't stick with the process we have in hand, but they require us to adapt a lot to their needs. So we realized, going to a little bit of a lower, smaller kind of client, it's more efficient for us. But then again, you have like hundreds and hundreds of freelancers also trying to operate in the space. But what they lack is the technology that we have, whereas the enterprise level competitors, they lack the human touch that we have, because they are just usually just faceless corporations where you don't get the same amount of human intervention that we would give to our clients.
Thank you so much for sharing. Do you think that AI will replace humans when it comes to translation?
I think AI will replace humans in so many things, but it's just a tool, right? So it helps us do things faster. It helps us do things more efficiently. It's going to create content as it's already doing, but also on a much bigger level. But eventually, just like with any other technology, we will get used to it, right? Just like we got used to everything from wheels onwards, right? It was
Exactly.
a level of automation that changed the human society forever, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're all better off with wheels, except that this time around it's a bit more of a complex wheel, and it's going to do more complex things. But yeah, it's going to change the translation landscape very vastly. It already has in a very significant way. But what we're seeing is that perhaps clients who wouldn't otherwise even consider localization and would say, okay, this is way too expensive for us to do, now say, okay, we can translate, most of our content using AI only. It's going to be very cheap. And then they enter a new market with that type of content, but they figure out, all right, we also need to translate, not only product descriptions, which you can do with AI, but we also need to translate our homepage, our, cornerstone content, our legal content, all of this stuff that has to be properly translated by a human, which you can't really afford to do by AI only. So that drives more revenue our way as well, because it would otherwise just not be there. It wouldn't exist as a project, right? So this I think is also one of the drivers of the industry as well. So all of the metrics show that the localization industry is changing, but it's still growing at a very steady rate, regardless of the AI interference. But we'll see, what time brings eventually.
That's awesome. So AI is more like a co-pilot rather than a replacement.
For us, yeah, it's been the premise for this company since the beginning. Even the name itself, TAIA, as in Taia,
Translation.
it's a translations with AI assistance, right? So we always betted on the idea that AI is going to help us do our jobs more efficiently, and everybody can reap the benefits. So the translators can be much more efficient with the technology we have, and the clients can get a much faster turnaround this way, and a much lower price as well, because we don't have to pay for everything that was already pre-translated. We can train the engines on the existing content.
Yes.
So we save a lot of time, because of all the automation we do, and our clients get to reap the benefits. So everyone's in for a better ride this way. But yeah, it does change the way translators work significantly. Just like it will change the way truck drivers work, right?
Yes, that's a great name, by the way. I really like it. It's very smart. When did you start the company?
Sorry?
When did you start the company?
So we started this company in late 2018, which was when we started writing the code first. The idea was around for a bit longer than that. But in the second half of 2018 was when we raised our first angel investment, which was very, very small at the time, but it allowed us to hire our first developers and start working on the code. Back then, I was only able to build a prototype. I wasn't really a proficient coder yet, and I probably never will be in the level of what we need these days. But we started off very, very cautiously and trying to onboard our existing clients to use the platform. And we very quickly found that there is a product market fit, that our clients do actually enjoy using the platform. They do like coming back and ordering projects through it, and that we can start working on this. So we started raising more funds, building more, and how the circle goes, right?
How big is your team right now?
So last year we hit a bump in the road, and we weren't able to raise the next round. So our latest round was 1.2 million euro in investments from a Central European fund. And after that, we weren't able to raise the next investment, at least not at the valuations that we were hoping to achieve. So we had to pull the plug, stop a lot of the activities, and reduce the size of the company. So before that, we were at about 32 employees, I believe. And then we went down quite significantly. A lot of the people left. So it was a very difficult period for us last year. One of the people who also left was our co-founder, Marco. That was when I stepped up from being the CTO and the person responsible for the product to also being the CEO. So now I'm responsible for the rest of the company as well. Things have changed quite a lot. But luckily, we've went through this hiccup and we survived it very well. So I think we're much stronger than we've ever been. We're now profitable again. We're growing again. We're hiring again. So there's 12 of us now, and we're looking forward to expanding again. Things are a bit different than they were when you're a VC funded company or when you're bootstrapping again. So it feels more like the good old startup days.
I understand. But what's the learning that you got from that period, let's say?
Sorry?
What's the learning that you got from that period? Maybe you could have managed your finances better, or I don't know.
Oh, yeah. The learning is, plan your burn rate properly. So don't overhire. It's better to hire late and fire early than the other way around. Yes. So I think we've had a lot of very good people on our team when we were still VC funded. But then again, we had a lot of people who didn't really contribute to the growth of the company. And I think we ought to be faster at firing and slower at hiring. I think that would definitely help. Always make sure you have your finances in order. I think there was quite a few issues in the way things were managed on our end, but luckily now we've cleared all of that out, so we know exactly where our money is and where it's going and what it does for us. And the most important thing, you have to work on sales yourself. So the founders need to be involved a lot on the sales, especially in the early stages, before you really figure out your ICPs, your buyer personas, before you have it all figured out. And until you have a self-replicating sales machine that can grow exponentially depending on how much money you invest into it, until that point, you cannot outsource that to anyone in the company or even outside the company. The founders have to be involved in this process because they know the product best. They know how to communicate it best. And being the first on the front line is crucial. You have to be there.
Thank you so much for sharing. Do you think you found the product market fit?
I think we have, yeah. So I think tech companies, specifically SaaS companies, really enjoy using our platforms. Specifically, they're When they're about 50 to 500 in size, it's usually the very good size. So that means that they already have some funding for international growth, usually post Series A is when they start considering this. So once they decide to not advertise and do their marketing and their content only in English, this is the best moment for us to step in. And this is usually about 50 to 100 employees, or maybe a bit bigger with some companies. But normally after Series A. And we love to work with their marketing teams. Usually the head of content or even CMO is the people we like to work with most, because they understand the importance of what quality they need for certain content. So some of their content has to be very, very well polished and SEO optimized, and we can do all of that for them. But sometimes they just need to translate things just to get the I don't know, the SEO quota up, right? So you got to get all of your blog posts translated just to reach the right range when you're entering a new market. But when we pair that up with the do-it-yourself tools and stuff like that, what we also have in the platform, we see that we can cover so many different angles for them, like everything from translating their legal content all the way to translating their core marketing content and everything else in between. So yeah. How
did you find your first customers?
How we found our first customers? So this is actually the second company I started. My first company was a language school, which we just sold.
So in the same niche?
Very similar niche, yeah. So I always loved learning and teaching languages, and I always enjoyed coding. So my first company was actually a language school with a hybrid business model where you would learn a part of the class online and a part of the class in person. So that was quite successful. We started generating some decent revenue there in the first few years. And then out of necessity, our clients were asking us if we can do their translation services as well. So we started the translation business, and out of necessity, we realized, we can automate this. We can make it much more efficient and friendly for everyone. We don't need to send emails back and forth and use 5 different pieces of software to process one project. We can do it all in one platform. So I dreamed of this concept of what is now Taia, and tried to see if we can sell it to our existing clients, and they mostly loved it. I mean, of course, we needed to go back to the drawing board a lot of times and polish things up and get the UI right and all of that. It doesn't come very easily at first. You need to do a lot of iterations to make sure you get things right. And I'm not sure we've gotten them right still. There's always room for improvement.
Of course.
And the UIs change as well, right? The times change, the way people use computers change as well. So we always have to adapt. But yeah, that was basically how we started out.
What is the main vision for Taia? The future vision?
Right. Yeah. Our main vision is to become a company that anybody can go to whenever they want to expand to new markets. So whatever content they have, whatever needs and localization they might identify, we can be there and help them solve that, ideally with as little traction as possible. So perhaps, the best thing we do is API integrations, where we set things up once and then we just leave it there. So our clients really enjoy the continuous localization options that they have, so that every time, their content creation team creates something, it's already half translated, and the next morning it's fully professionally translated and ready to be published, and already waiting for them in their CMS, right? So this is this is something that we already do, but we can always do it better. We can always improve on that.
That's a great vision. I love it.
Thank you.
And what did you say are the most successful go-to-market strategies?
Go-to-market, that's always a difficult one. So we're in a very difficult demand-driven market. So there's not a lot of ways for us to generate demand. We can't really go out there and tell people, oh, you need to translate your website. Yeah, they probably already know that, but they don't have the budget for it, or they don't have, the people to manage that. So what we try to do is, educate them that it might not be as expensive as they think, and that they might not even need additional people on their end, or anyone at all to deal with this. They just need to give us the access and tell us what they want. But what we find the most effective is SEO and SEM. So when people are in the market already searching for a localization solution, we position ourselves as the alternative to traditional translation agencies, or even managing your army of freelancers.
Yes.
So we step in there and we see quite a very good conversion rate between inbound leads and paying customers. So yeah, I think this is the most effective one for us. SEO also being very cost effective in the long run. I think it's always a very good investment, and we should be doing even more of that. But lately, LinkedIn is very expensive. Advertising on LinkedIn has gone through the roof. But if you know who your buyer persona is and you can identify it well, then you can get some pretty decent results out of that. So that has been working quite well for us. I think we need to improve a lot on our copy and our videos and all of that, but it's still bringing in quite decent results. Never forget about remarketing. That is a core lesson. So if you get someone to visit your website out of the billions of websites out there on the internet, make sure that they remember you. So make sure that you have because it's very cheap, setting up
Yes.
Google Display Network, Facebook Display Network, all of these remarketing tools. They're extremely efficient for the price that you have to pay, because then people will see your brand and the name of your company everywhere they go on the internet, right? So it will be much easier for you to stay on the top of their minds.
I really appreciate the transparency. Thank you so much. I'd love to hear your full backstory. So how you started your career from day one.
How I started my career. So yeah, I've mentioned it a little bit
Yes.
just before that. But I come from a very small country called Slovenia. It's in Central Europe, and there's only 2 million people living in this country. So that means that, from day one, we need to start learning foreign languages if we are to survive. So most Slovenians you
Okay.
will ever meet,
Yes.
they all speak at least one foreign language, at least English. But I also learned German in school. I learned Italian in school, and then
Wow.
I went on to study Chinese. So I lived in China for a while as well. So I was always a person very passionate about languages. But on the side, I was always also passionate about computers and coding. So I was always building websites and programming and doing this and doing that. But I do have a bit of issue with dyslexia. So coding was always an issue for me. So, I would miss that hyphen somewhere, or another semicolon or whatever, and I would spend 2 or 3 hours looking for that. So it wasn't a very obvious career path for me because of that. But then eventually I found a way how to combine the two of them when building the language school, and that took off, and I really got a kick out of the idea that you can just build something and people come and they start paying you for that, and they like it, and they come back and they tell their friends and they come back, and you just start generating money out of something that you love doing. And I love that idea. That always pulls me back into being an entrepreneur, even though it's a really hard job and you really have to do so many things. You have to be everything from a graphic designer to a coder to a copywriter to a sometimes even a shrink to your employees. You have to deal with their personal issues and
Yes.
who knows what, right? So yeah, it's very demanding, but it's also very, very rewarding when you see the fruits of your labor finally, growing and bringing something back. So yeah, and then out of necessity, we started doing the translation services, and out of that, we started building the platform. And yes, it's been a lot of ups and downs, but generally, it's been a very rewarding experience for me until now. I've learned so much. I had a great business partner with Marco. Unfortunately, we don't work together anymore. We broke up as business partners last year.
Yes.
And I hear it's very rare for a company to survive not only the co-founder breakup, but also the end of the runway event. So I guess we're 1 out of 100 that survives this kind of event, which I think sheds a good light on us, on the resilience of the team and the company and the product itself. So we're now growing again. We're hiring again. We're acquiring some pretty cool new customers, which is, I'm very much looking forward to be able to put those on the front page. The logos are,
Yes.
It's always like it's like a rewarding thing when you get a new logo or reference from
Absolutely.
your client and they allow you to publish it on your front page. That's always awesome.
Absolutely. But what do you think was the most crucial factor to your survival? Because you had a co-founder breakup, the end of the money, the runway? What do you think kept you alive apart from those other 99 companies, let's say?
I think the determination, the resilience. So I was this close to quitting myself, but I slept on it. I thought on it, and I said, okay, I invested so much of my time and energy into this company. I will do whatever it takes to save it, even if it's hard, even if it makes me, not sleep for many nights in a row and work, instead of being with my kids and taking time off or whatever, just keep on working and plowing through. So I think that's what's expected of us. But a lot of times, early founders, especially young, inexperienced founders, they're not aware of the psychological toil, that the toll that this line of business takes on you, and especially once you're VC funded, the pressure is immense from investors and other shareholders. You need to be very careful how you manage yourself and how you manage your personal mental health, and your work and free time balance is extremely important. But without a healthy founder, without a healthy leader, no company can survive. So, you first take care of yourself, and once you are healthy and capable of thriving on your own, then the company can thrive as well. But if you don't believe in that, if you don't believe in the company surviving, then you won't be working towards that. So it will be impossible for you to actually achieve your goals. You first have to set them out, visualize them very well, believe in them, but be very careful not to overstretch yourself.
And what would be your best piece of advice for a CTO or a developer that's following the same path, turning into a CEO of the company? I know it's quite rare, but I'm curious to know your perspective, because I think you had to learn a lot.
I had to learn. I'm still learning a lot on a daily basis. So, always surround yourself with people who are willing to learn. That is, I think, very, very critical. So when you're hiring someone, I rarely put as much emphasis on actual skills that they have as I do on the ability to acquire new skills. I think this is what our generation is best at, because if you look at previous generations, they would learn something in school and then they would do almost the same job for 20 or even 30 years.
Exactly.
Whereas these days, you literally have to learn things on a daily basis. And if you don't, then you're out of the game very fast. You become obsolete very, very, very fast. The market is giant. There's so many people out there. And I see even very, very niche products are getting saturated very quickly. There's competitors all over the board, regardless of what you do. But you have to be better than any of them, and you have to be not only better, you have to be faster at adapting. So the theory of evolution didn't say that the survival of the fittest will always endure, but it's about the survival of the one who's the most capable of adapting to new changes in the environment. So by learning and acquiring new skills, you can be the one who can adapt faster than your competitors, and you can be the one always on the top of the food chain.
I have one last question for you. You did fantastic so far, but here it is. What's your favorite SaaS product apart from Taia?
What's my favorite SaaS product? Oh, that's a good question. I'd say right now, I don't think it's far off if I say ChatGPT is a SaaS product.
It is.
I think it's one of the best things that happens to the tech industry in a very long time. I know a lot of people are skeptical and afraid and all of that, but the way it's helping me and thousands of other people, it's amazing. You can learn so much from it. It can be your coding companion. It can help you write copy. It's just the best thing that has been available since. And I mean, I know it's just a very early stage. I've been using GPT-2 for using API, and then I've been using GPT-3 using API, for content generation and stuff like that. But when the ChatGPT came out with this much more advanced model, and now it's GPT-4 as well, it's just brilliant. The time it saves me even writing code. It's just amazing stuff that would usually take me, 2 hours to only dream up and then communicate to a developer and have them, just my engagement would be two hours at least.
Yes.
Now I can have that done in half an hour with a few back and forth prompts, and that's it.
Is there anything else that you want to mention on today's podcast?
No, I think we were quite thorough, actually.
Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Christian.